Pretty much every day was the same for me. Get up, brush teeth, shower, get dressed, breakfast, then out the door for work. I lived alone for a while, and it seemed to work out pretty fine for the longest time. But just like most people experience, spending most of your time alone eventually becomes pretty lonely. I was beginning to feel as if a roommate could be a good idea. Asking around to coworkers who maybe knew of anyone in need of a roommate ended in nothing. I asked around to the few friends that I had the very same question and still the same answer. No. I started to think it was pointless in even trying anymore. Nobody needed or wanted a roommate. Honestly, I gave up for another 2 weeks after that. Everything remained the same. Loneliness and the same old repetitive days. Until I remembered the power of Facebook. I started to think that there had to be at least some sort of group in my area that was searching for the same thing I was. Thankfully, I was right. It didn't take me very long to find a group that seemed suitable for me to make my post. Looking back, I feel a bit stupid that it took me this long to even try social media. Probably because I've just never really been a big fan. I began making my post, searching for a roommate in the local area. I added in extra details in the comments about what would be preferable in a roommate to live with. To my surprise, I started getting replies. To be honest, once I checked out most of the profiles, it didn't seem to be a good fit. Not trying to be discouraged by this, I just logged off for a bit and gave it some more time. When I woke up the next morning, I was honestly a little excited to see if my post got any more replies. Logging into my account, I was pleasantly surprised to see I had gotten 2 more. One of them said my buddy Brian would probably be interested. They put a link to this profile after that, so I decided to check it out. From what I saw, just browsing around on his profile, he seemed like your average guy. He seemed pretty laid back, clean, didn't appear to come off of as annoying. I figured we'd get along well and it would give me someone to talk to and hang out with when I wasn't at work. I got along pretty well with my coworkers, but they just weren't exactly the type I wanted to hang out with once I clocked out. I messaged Brian and told him that his friend mentioned he may be interested in a roommate on a post I made. About an hour later, Brian responded and told me that he was. He was staying in a place with another friend of his who just bailed on him and left him with all of the bills, and it was getting hard for him to afford staying there. We worked things out, and within a short time, Brian had moved in with me. Everything was pretty cool. We got along pretty well, and everything was working out. I woke up for work one morning and checked my phone to see if I had any texts or calls. I had 3 missed texts, one from my mother telling me goodnight, and she loved me. One from a friend just saying how you been. The last one is what started this whole ordeal. From an unknown number, I had a text that was just a single picture of a man with his eyes blindfolded, lying in bed. Obviously, I thought that was insanely creepy. I texted, "Who is this?" I never got an answer and I brushed it off as some weirdo just playing a dumb prank, especially because the number was way out of an area code I was in and I already had everyone's number I would even speak to. From that morning forward, every morning became absolute hell. I woke up every morning to these awful pictures of a man in awkward poses with a blindfold on that covered most of his face. I tried calling and texting this number more times than I can count, and I've never gotten a reply. After about 2 weeks of this, I got the same type of text. Only this time, it was from a different number. My roommate Brian had left a little earlier than usual for a morning shift. With just me in the house, I called this new number that was sending me the same type of picture. My entire body started to shake when I heard a phone ring from the kitchen. Brian had forgotten to grab one of his phones before he left. This whole time, that man in the picture was me. I'm not letting Brian back in this house. I'm a college student living in an apartment near campus with one roommate. He tended to go to bed and wake up early, and I stayed up late and slept in often. This could be troublesome sometimes, because we shared a room, but we had our routines worked out. He would call it a night around 10, 11 p.m., and I would follow quietly a few hours later, around home. He woke up to the same blaring alarm each morning at 7 a.m., but to his astonishment, it never bothered me. I am a very heavy sleeper and take pride in being capable of sleeping through almost anything. One night, he turned in at the usual time and went to sleep, and I came creeping in a little while later. I remember falling asleep quickly and sleeping well the whole night. But come to think of it, I may have been woken up around what I could only guess was maybe 3:30 or 4 a.m. It's difficult to say because when I do wake up, I tend to be very confused and have a terrible memory. I never even opened my eyes, but I heard the creak of our door and some footsteps and rustling. Nothing out of the ordinary, and I was right back into a deep sleep. The following morning, I get up around noon as per usual and find that my roommate isn't around. Seeing as he wakes up early and leads a very productive lifestyle, I assume he's just gone to get lunch or groceries. A couple hours go by, and so I text him to ask where he's gone. Another few hours and no response. I am confused, but not worried because he is notoriously terrible when it comes to responding to texts. By the time 9 p.m. rolls around, I decide to call him to get answers. No response. Perhaps his phone died, and he's with our friends playing cards. Like always, I think to myself and ease my worry. I enter our room to relax in bed and decide to give him another call to be safe. I jump at the sudden buzzing coming from his side of the room. I begin looking for his phone because that's where he keeps his key card, and without it, he couldn't get back into the building. I go to his bed and check under the pillows and then lift the sheets and something startling. A wet spot soaked into the center of his mattress. A large one, roughly the size of a torso, and I was surprised to find that he still wets the bed. Upon closer inspection, it doesn't smell of urine. It smells metallic, like iron, like blood. I press my hand against it to see the red stain left behind on my skin. My heart drops, blood curdling in my veins. Fear-stricken as I think back to what it was that happened. What really woke me up? The night prior, where is my roommate? I reported his disappearance to campus and local police. There has been an ongoing search for my roommate for 3 weeks now, and I can't sleep. I can't sleep, or lay down, or close my eyes. I sit up each night, darting my eyes around the room, jumping at each sudden sound I hear from the window. As I sit up against the wall, clutching my pillow to my chest, it hits me. It wafts over me like a cloud of horrific revelation. The smell. Putrid and nauseating. The smell of death. My body is stiff and shivering, but I'm sweating as if the room were on fire. I pull my shirt over my face to gasp at a moment of relief from the stench as I search for its origin. The room is pitch black, almost making my sense of smell that much sharper. I find myself feeling my way along the bed frame and then to the wall and closer until I come to his closet, his standalone closet, that sits opposite his bed. I reluctantly reach for the cold steel handle. I slowly pull until it clicks, releasing the lock and the door, almost on its own, creaks open and then it gives. And a shadowy, lumpy figure collapses out onto the floor in front of me. Gagging and heaving, I frantically turn on the lights. I wish I didn't. I wish I ran out of that building, called the police, and never looked back. But I wasn't so wise. I found myself looking down at the mangled body of what was left of my roommate, twisted and broken, knees bent backwards, bones protruding from the skin on his arms and legs, and his head. It was facing the wrong way. His body looked tormented even in death. He was rotting, and maggots had replaced his eyes and tongue. In an attempt to block out this scarring image, I looked up towards the closet that had kept his body crammed inside for these past 3 weeks. My soul felt as if it had left my body when I noticed the writing on the inside. I was watching myself frozen in fear as I read these words, "Lucky you didn't wake up."